Hi, everyone. Good to see everyone. Hope you had a restful Shabbat, as we say. And yeah, good to see everyone smiling. Roberto, smile. We said that's the key to everyone. Jesse, okay. We see everyone smiling. Shirley, Joanne, okay. You can pause in between to talk to our patient or client. And I want to, is, I won't say mandatory, but very desired. And we will partner and ask you to participate. And it would be really nice if you do. You've been brave enough to come all this way to Israel and be part of our caregiving community. And I hope that you'll be willing to share with us a little bit about your thoughts and questions and things that you're thinking about and your past experiences, perhaps. So this is going to be part of our talk together. I'm going to share the screen, Margareta. 1 minute. My share screen, where is it? Seems to disappear every once in a while. Okay. I'm gonna see where that went. Okay. There we go. Okay, can everyone see the presentation here?
Yes.
And okay,
yes,
very good.
Sarah, just don't forget to do full screen.
Right, I seem to forget to do that. 1 second. And we get that going as well. Okay, we're all set. So as I said, we're going to talk a little bit about today building and developing relationship with our patient and client. Very important step. And the first step, obviously, in our work, we want to connect, we want to build a relationship, and we're going to talk a little bit about what is involved. And again, I invite you to share what your thoughts and experiences have been. So building and developing a relationship with our patient or client involves a few things. First of all, creating good communication, coordination of expectations, building trust, creating the caregiving alliance, and taking into account social and cultural components. Okay, so we'll talk a little bit about each one of those. So creating good communication. Okay. When we think about communication, we want to try to understand the way people communicate with us. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about different types of communications. We tend to think that there are 4 basic types or styles of communications, and I'll describe each one. So every person has a unique communication style, a way in which they interact and exchange information with others. There are 4 basic communication styles that is usually referred to: being passive, being aggressive, being passive-aggressive, and assertive. And I want to explain a little bit about each one of these types. It's important to understand each communication style and why individuals use them. For example, the assertive communication style has been found to be the most effective because it incorporates the best aspects of all the other styles. When we break down these 4 styles, we'll better understand the characteristics of each style, standard phrases, and what makes them unique. So let's talk a little bit about being passive. Passive communicators often display a lack of eye contact, poor body posture, and an inability to say no. Passive communicators also act in a way that states people never consider my feelings. And passive communicators are also easy to get along with as they follow orders and go with the flow. But there's always a but. This type of communication is problematic for several reasons. Number one, people don't really know what this kind of communicator feels, wants, or is thinking about, right? Because he's not expressing it in any direct way. And also, when you're a passive communicator, sometimes people may take advantage of you or think that you agree with the situation that you don't really agree with, and because you haven't responded in a direct way. So this type of communication is not very recommended, definitely not for a caregiver. And if you come across someone as a client or a patient, it's very challenging to really try to understand, if they're very passive, what is actually going on inside of them, okay? Because it's important to know. Being aggressive. I think someone has an open microphone that may be making noise, perhaps. Okay, everyone closes their microphone, we'll hear each other better. Let's talk a little bit about the aggressive. Okay, everyone hear me? The aggressive communicator. The aggressive communication style is emphasized by speaking in a loud, demanding voice, maintaining intense eye contact, domineering or controlling others by blaming, intimidating, criticizing, threatening, or attacking them, among other traits. This is obviously not a very pleasant way to communicate. It's also not very pleasant to come across someone or to take care of someone who communicates this way, right? Being aggressive, domineering, and so on, and criticizing, threatening. And so it's very important to try to understand what is behind this type of behavior. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a few minutes. And then there's the passive aggressive communicator. Passive aggressive communication style users appear passive on the surface, but within, he or she may feel powerless or stuck, building up a resentment that leads to seething or acting out in subtle, indirect, secret ways. Most passive aggressive communicators will mutter to themselves rather than confront a person or an issue. They have difficulty acknowledging their anger, use facial expressions that don't correlate with the way they feel, and even deny that there is a problem. Well, passive aggressive communicators are usually very difficult to deal with because it takes an enormous effort to know a person in order to really understand their behavior, since they are not being very direct about it. And of course, they lash out because they seem passive, but on the inside, may be angry, may be frustrated, and so on. Not a good way to communicate. The assertive type. The assertive communicators can express their own needs, desires, ideas, and feelings while also considering the needs of others. One of the key assertive communication is using I statements such as I feel frustrated when you are late or to a meeting, or I don't have to explain this over and over. It indicates ownership of feelings and behaviors without blaming the other person. I want to emphasize that being assertive is probably the best way to communicate. And it's very important that we as caregivers understand that we must be straightforward and we must communicate directly what we mean, and of course say what we mean. And the best way to do stated here using the I, okay? I think, I feel, I understand, and so on and so forth. When you are trying to communicate to someone who doesn't hear well, doesn't see well, perhaps his English is not, his best language, or doesn't even have the use of the English language or any other language for that matter, then it is very and straightforward communication as possible. Okay, very important. So let's talk a little bit about the different types of behavior that I've mentioned before. The passive communicator is emotionally dishonest, indirect, inhibited, self-denying, blaming, and apologetic. The passive aggressive communicator is emotionally dishonest, indirect, self-denying at first, and self-enhancing at the expense of others. Aggressive, people that communicate aggressively, inappropriately are honest, direct, expressive, attacking, blaming, controlling, self-enhancing at the expense of others. And of course, the prefer to be ourselves is to be appropriately honest, direct, self-enhancing, expressive, self-confident, and empathetic to the emotions of all involved. Tools for effective communication. Okay, now how do we do all of these good things? Understanding how others communicate can be a key to getting your message across to them. In order to develop effective communication style, here are a few tips to keep in mind. Take ownership. As I said before, use the I statement. Maintain eye contact. If you feel comfortable, voice your needs and desires definitively. And don't forget to smile. It always makes things easier. So as I've said, through these slides, very important the way that we communicate, okay? So if you look a person in the eye and you catch their eye, and you try to maintain his attention, sometimes by even touching them, using short phrases, very direct, short phrases expressing exactly what you need, what you want, what you're asking him. Best way to communicate: direct, short statements, questions, okay? And probably that will be the best way to communicate. Adding a smile, beginning with a smile, and ending with a smile. How to deal with aggressive behavior, language, some important tips. I think that all of us have a hard time dealing with people that are aggressive, okay? This is obviously not very pleasant, and part of our responsibility to deal with people in spite of the fact that they may be aggressive at times, especially if they're our client, they're our boss, they're our responsibility. So here are a few tips on this YouTube film that you may look into and see if there are any suggestions that may be helpful to you if you come across a situation with people that behave in an aggressive manner. Sometimes it's because they're in pain. Sometimes it's because they're frustrated. Sometimes it's because they don't understand, or something else is, something is wrong. I assume that most people behave in this way because they're expressing a certain feeling or a need, and are not able to do that in another way. I want to continue and talk about another form of communication, which we all are familiar with: nonverbal communication. I think we all know that our body language and our facial expressions and the tone of our voice and the pitch of our voice and the intonations and everything about the way that we move our body and face and voice and so on expresses exactly who we are, unless we're masterminds of disguise, but usually we're not. And so it's very important to learn how to present yourself in order to read also the people around you. This takes time to get to know them. I assume that everyone has had experience with pets and animals that live in your surroundings. They become familiar with, they don't learn Chinese or Hebrew or English. They learn the pitch of our voice, the rhythm of the sound of the, of what we say and how to respond to it, depending if they're rewarded or not. And so very often language, not spoken language, not verbal language, can be more important and more effective than even verbal language, okay? Along with the 4 communication styles, there is also the nonverbal communication. Nonverbal communication is any way in which people can transfer information between them without the use of words, from the spoken, written, or sign language. Nonverbal communication is expressed in facial expressions, body language, clasped hands indicate closure, tone of voice, physical gestures, standing, touching. We all know that those are the best way to communicate, right? When you touch someone gently and smile at them, most probably they will respond positively and will be willing to continue the interaction with you in a positive way. So tools for effective communication. Talk a little bit about that. Active listening. Find out clients' opinions, thoughts, and emotions are. Try not to make assumptions, and even more important, not to make judgments. People that come from different cultures, different histories, Very important to get to know them. Ask them questions. Ask about the knickknacks in their house, the pictures and the album of the family, what music they like, what, where they bought the clothes, sometimes, clothing and life story, what their successes were, what their disappointments were their family members, their friends. All of those things paint a picture and allow you to be part of their life, okay, in a way that you can be helpful in a meaningful way. Reflection. In order to make sure you understand what your patient means, try to reflect that you understood what he said by saying, I understand that, I see that, and ask if you understood correctly. I also suggest that sometimes by repeating the words of a person that we're trying to communicate with, that gives them the feeling of affirmation that he has been heard, okay? And we want to, of course, understand what he has said. Empathy. Try to empathize with your patient, even if you don't agree with him. Empathy is very important and very difficult. It can happen if you have a good communication. And of course, we'll talk about trust a little bit, but good communication and empathy go hand in hand. And of course, the I message. When you talk about your opinions and thoughts, use the word I. This is what you think. This is your world. This is where you're coming from. And of course, it's nice to share so that they know you as well, right? You want to build a relationship, a two-way street. They need to know you as well as you need to know them, okay? What makes you happy? What makes you sad? What makes you anxious? All of those things are important to communicate as well. Okay, tools for effective communication. Number one, patience, right? We all know that this is the number one. Be very patient with your patient and his family. This situation is new to them too, and it takes time to get to know each other. Tolerance. Before we go on to tolerance, I'll say be patient with yourself, okay? You're young and healthy and probably very efficient at all the jobs you've done up until now. But again, I want to emphasize that you have to be patient with yourself. It takes time to learn. You'll make mistakes. And okay, and then you'll correct them. Take a notebook, write down things that you understood were not, the way that they were expected to be. And of course, if you smile and ask questions, sometimes people think that, oh, that's obvious. You should know that. No, you have to ask questions. You don't know. Different house, different culture, different family, different religion, different everything. Okay. And tolerance. Even if you don't agree with your patient, try to respect his opinion. It's okay to disagree, make conversation about it, but try to be tolerant, okay? So yes, you can always agree to disagree, and that's fine. You don't have to adapt about life, about politics, about religion, but must accept them. And of course, being professional, we keep respectful and patience, and that's how we communicate. We don't have to adapt their way of thought, but we want to be respectful. Nonverbal communication. Again, when talking to a patient, maintain eye contact. Try to speak at eye level, not to be above him. Relax your speech, calm your tone of speech. Very important, eye level. I don't know if you're very much in understanding about eye level. Sitting. Most of their life they sit, yes, either in a wheelchair or, standing is probably more difficult. And even if they're bigger than you, taller than you, not very comfortable to speak to someone or to communicate to someone when you have to look up or when you have to look down. So I highly recommend best communication is try to be at the eye level of the person that you are communicating with. If you're feeding, bathing, clothing, talking, trying to, understand what's going on, always try to be at eye level. If your employer is bigger, taller, ask him to sit down so that you could be, the same eye level. And of course, you sit down in order to understand him. So, communication, the number one in everything. Everything is all about communication. So I would like very much to hear your opinions and thoughts about, communication. Learning a new language. If anyone has had the opportunity to learn a new language, to be exposed to people that speak different languages, how that came to come, how that, influenced them, and especially in a working situation or not just. And here are some questions to guide us. The best communication style may be, What can you do if your patient has communication style that is difficult to handle? Like I mentioned, being aggressive perhaps, or passive aggressive. And which concerns do you have about your own patient's communication style? And I invite you to, to share what you want to say. Has everyone joined the group already?
I hope
Okay.
so.
Okay.
Does anybody have experience to working abroad?
Marianne, did you tell us that you worked in the Middle East before? Or am I making a mistake? Someone said that they worked in the Middle East.
Well, somebody in our sales group definitely has.
Mm-hmm.
So-called
Okay.
shy person who was very brave to come here.
Okay. Someone want to tell us about that? Not me and Margareta, but share with the group. I think you guys have more information that you can help each other. How you overcame learning such a different language. Anyone? Hi. Hi.
Hello.
Hello, Ma'am Sarah.
Hi.
Talk to your employer with respect and be polite.
Pardon me, want to say again?
You talk to your employer with respect and be polite.
Okay, thank you. That's very important to respond with politeness and be respectful. Okay, very, very true, but not to be passive. Okay, sometimes when you are passive, people may misunderstand you. Okay, especially if they may want to take advantage if you're not responding and in a negative way. So being respectful, absolutely, but not in a passive way, right? Expressing what you think, what you feel, what you understand. Okay, thank you for bringing that back up. Anyone else want to share?
Hello, Ma'am
Queenie.
Sarah.
Hi.
Good afternoon. Nice to see you again this afternoon, Ma'am Sarah.
Yes.
By the way, I'm Winnie Canyaveral. Based on my experience, ma'am, since I'm working in a different countries, and of course in the Philippines also. I'm working as a frontliner for COVID facility, which is inside the hospital as well. And there's a different attitude or behaviors from those patients. So I need to start to learn how to handle it for that different behaviors as well. So what I did is just to make good approaches to us, to bring a good smile to my patients. And those patients can respond to me to be a great responses. So every time I talk to them, then I want to show my kindness, my understanding, because those patients are different cases, different behavior, and different understanding about it. And for me, I need to always showing my concern, understanding, and of course, when it's patients inside the hospital. And those patients can appreciate about what I am doing, about my performance as well, because I'm always to ask them, how are you? How's your feeling right now? Because that is a very good approach to them. Showing your love, your kindness, and understanding, of course. Respect is given for everybody to work in a different kinds of institutions, which is in the hospital, of course. So I think that those caregivers are very have their own style when it comes to their actions, when it comes to their approaching for every employers. So we are all knowledgeable and we are all respected. So thank you, Ma'am Sarah. And that is, it's just a short sharing for me about my experiences that I had.
Well, thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you very much. And I see that you had a very big experience, a lot of experience with COVID patients and in a care facility. Okay.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
I hear your voice that you have a very, a very calm kind of, way of communicating in a natural way. And I'm sure that helped you. And asking them every day, again and again, even though you know what they're going to answer you, do you want an egg or cheese? Do you want to wear this or that? Do you want your coffee before your toast? All of those benign things. Asking is very important. Allowing people to make their tiniest choices gives them the validation of being, of having some control of their situation. And okay, asking them how they feel is so important that you continuously do that. And yeah, okay, thank you for sharing that. And I ask again, is anyone in the group had the experience of being, you work in a facility, in the end you go home and you rest. But here, when you are a caregiver in the home of someone, yeah, you're on call a lot. And that's a different kind of tension that also is part of the job. Has anyone had that kind of experience? They want to share how they dealt with it? Being a home caregiver?
For an additional, Ma'am Sarah,
Yes.
for my additions, of course, to the part of the elderly. So as a caregiver, you must know your limitations. So you must know about your responsibility as well. And of course, you need to communicate from time to time, and and maybe later we get to develop the rapport between the caregiver and the employee itself. Caregiver, you must know your obligations to instruct your patients, just like to help to take the drugs or to take the medicines, of
Mhm.
course, so
Mhm.
properly. So you can, we need to prevent the overdose from the drugs. So we need to guide first and let just to know more about it. When it comes to the history of the patients or your employer, of course, you just must know first, and then the medicines and anything. So every day, so you can do it that task again and again. Thank you,
Oh,
ma'am,
thank you,
for a
Winnie.
short. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing. You're absolutely right. Being a professional, you have to know, what your job is, giving medicine and so on. But in Hebrew, we say, someone, if you sometimes have a patient raving, you have to become very intuitive and to know them, even to manipulate him a little bit in order for him to cooperate and to be creative. Of course, is seeing the end result, taking medicine or having some kind of treatment, sometimes not even, um, not following exact orders, but best job. Anyone else would like to share about communication?
Sarah?
Yes.
I just wanted to put another point of view of the relations between the patient and the caregiver, and think about the patient that actually he or she are expecting the most professional approach from the caregiver. And I, as an example, if I am in a position of a patient, I don't really know what are the professional traits or characters of the worker. So what I'm expecting is that he will give me a good care, he will behave nicely, he will listen to my desires and to my wishes and to my demands. And if there is something wrong with myself doing or asking for that, I expect that the caregiver will tell me, like this I don't know how to do, or this I can do, or this I will ask someone. And then there is a communication developing between the two. It's not only the responsibility of the caregiver, but it's also the responsibility of the patient. And by being a professional, we expect from the professional to be more initiative and to be more asking and proactive.
Okay, thank you, Jakob. Very important point, to be proactive and trying to find out what the patient or client needs and wants. I think that's you know, a very important point. And not deciding for him, but asking and allowing him to decide. Right, exactly. Thank you, Jakob. Anyone else like to talk about communication styles? Perhaps you've had an opportunity to take care of someone that was easy or hard, or what you know about your client already in terms of who they are and what you might be expecting. Jessie?
Hi, hello ma'am. Good afternoon po.
Hi.
Yes. Hi. Based on my experience as a live-in caregiver, both in home and in hospital, regarding the communication style, aside from verbal and body languages, I used to have a of my patient. So gentle touch means you feel there, so you feel there, they feel that somebody is care for them, comforting them. So gentle touch of their hands, or any of their gestures in their back or their head part is also important in communication. Thank you,
Wow,
ma'am.
you are
That's
so right, Jessie. Thank you for mentioning that. You know, it's very important to touch someone in a gentle way, sometimes to massage the hand, sometimes to, you know, gently stroke the shoulder or the arm. You know, all of that tactile stimulation makes the world of difference. And, you know, when we're talking about communication and nonverbal communication, especially, or, you know, causing a situation to be really touching someone, and also by music, playing music person likes, and perhaps, you know, using smells that a person likes, you know, sometimes aromatherapy, we'd like to think of that, but it doesn't have to be so, you know, flowers and spices and things that, you know, make us feel nice and comfortable. Even soap and water, you know, sometimes makes us feel very comfortable and relaxed. So thank you for sharing that. All of those forms of, you know, tips can really help us alleviate a situation, and, you know, that might be stressful, and form a, you know, the opportunity for cooperation. Okay, thank you very much. Anyone else like to share? Okay, I just want to say that because we have an encounter, you know, encounter with people that we're not familiar with, you and your client are going to be exposed to different spices, the way our body odors are, and you must be sensitive to that, and of course not be offended. Okay, not be offended if someone says to you that maybe they don't like the way that you smell, or maybe they don't like something else, you know, in the music you listen to or something. Those things can happen, and they're culture based. I have to tell you that I've come across that often by, you know, being in charge of a situation where there were many different elderly people from different cultures eating different spices. And believe me, that has a big effect on how body odors are, especially, you know, certain people are more affected, less affected, garlic, I don't know, onions, all kinds of spices. And when you're living with someone and caring for someone, you must be sensitive to all of those things, and not to be offended. Okay, even if you're told or if you're asking, all of those things, very important. Thank you for mentioning that, Jessie. Okay, is there anyone else that would like to comment about communication and concerns about our communication styles and tips with our new clients, patients living in their family. Take a 5-minute break if there's no one else. And we can continue after the 5-minute break. Okay, Margareta?
Yeah.
Are we back? So if we're all back, we'll continue with our presentation and talk a little bit more about communication. And again, here is a YouTube presentation that you can watch at your own, in your own time. 10 tips for communicating with the elderly might be helpful. Okay, the second step, of course, in communication with your patient or client is coordination of expectations. This is something very important, right? Whenever we have any kind of interaction, we want to make what we call expectations, right? Coordination of expectations. With starting a new job and starting a new relationship, each side has expectations, hopes, and concerns. And we try to have an open conversation with our patient or client and his family about their needs and expectations. It is important that you also express your needs and expectations and try to be honest and open and, of course, willing to learn. Obviously, you're on a big learning curve, right? Learning the language, learning the family, learning their customs, learning their needs. And very important that you also, say what you need. I very much want to encourage you to, if you know that you need something, to express it directly, okay? And not be shy. And basic things everyone needs, right? Along the way, there may be changes in the patients or in your expectations and needs, and it's okay as long as you speak about it. If you maintain good communication, you can always talk again openly about your patient's expectations and your expectations and try to coordinate expectations. Okay, this is very important. I'll just tell you a story that a friend of mine, excuse me, noise. 1 minute, turn off my telephone, sorry. Yes, I have a friend who had a caregiver taking care of, her mother-in-law, and they were very happy. The family every weekend, Jewish people have family meals on Friday evening, and the grandma came with her caregiver, and everyone thought that everyone was happy with this situation. A year and a half, and then the caregiver left. Why? The family asked, "Why did you leave?" And then she came forth and she said, "I didn't have a closet in my room. I didn't have an air conditioner. I couldn't put my food in the kitchen." And so they said, "Why didn't you speak up? These are things we could have taken care of very easily at the beginning." She said, "Well, I thought that, maybe during the time that would pass, the client or the patient would be willing to, to meet my needs, but I see that she refuses. And so I don't want to be there anymore." So what I'm trying to say, don't wait a year and a half if you need an air conditioner, if you need a closet for your clothes, and if you need a place to put your food. And again, I want to emphasize that you may come across a client that has a situation in the kitchen where they would prefer that you don't put your food, not knowing you yet, not knowing the kind of food that you like because of, the Jewish dietary laws. So don't be offended, but there must be a place that you can put your pencils and so on. So all of those things must be negotiated openly and, without drama. Yes, all the things that you may need, hot water, cold water, to be comfortable in your space, to have whatever everyone needs. So good communication is built on trust, right? Without trust, you cannot have any kind of communication. And so trust is the base with our patient. And so what is involved? Sincerity, competence, all of those things make up trust. We'll talk a little bit about one's willingness to be vulnerable to another based on the confidence that the other has the goodwill and trustworthy component and can trust someone and achieve. The patient has to trust you, and they have to understand that you will always have many elements: integrity, openness, and commitment. Okay, respect for others, that's obvious, right? You Treat others as you want to be treated yourself. Honest and open, very important, okay? You mean what you say and you say what you mean. Integrity, yes. If you have, if you say something, you know, if you must do what you promised you would do, be on time and so on, yes? Must be able to rely on you. And commitment, yes, very important, and trust that your client and patient will know that you're committed to do good for them. More ingredients for trust, willingness to be vulnerable. Okay, so for your client to trust you, they have to actually bear their in their body, but to trust, you know, you will keep their yeah, a sense of sincerity, goodwill, and the well-being of the trust giver. Yes, they must rely on goodwill. They must know, yes, that you're going to be there for them. Yes, honesty, the fit between a statement and action. Yes, what you do is what you mean. You promise to do something. You say you're going to be somewhere. Of course, you're there and you're on time. And of course, reciprocity, treating the others as we would like to be treated ourselves. Okay. And like you, he has concerns, expectations, hopes from this relationship. Give trust and trust yourself, trust the patient, and trust the process of getting to know each other. If you trust others, they will trust you. Always tell the truth if something bothers. Okay, very recommended. I want to talk a little bit more about, you know, the fact that this is sometimes they may feel they're even being invaded in their space. Very important. Do you sit in your room? Do you eat with him at the time that you like? In the garden, in the patio. Very important that you talk about these things. These are all part of, you know, when it's your time to do your own laundry, to take your own shower, to take care of your own private, you know, things, talk to your family and so on. All of those things are very important, and that you negotiate. If you want to have visitors, you must negotiate this with you. And, you know, if you have free time, obviously, where you go when you come back, and say, in order for them to have a trust relationship with you. And the very important, I want to do with privacy, right? If you see things in the family that, you know, perhaps not being the fact that, you know, being proactive is part of assisting your clients in being and cycles of life that perhaps COVID has had a terrible effect on elderly and disabled people in general. They've become more introverted and more distanced from any cycles of their life, perhaps from friends, family, and so on, and might be more intimidated by strangers. So I really think that it would be very, very much part of your proactive job to allow them, perhaps through the media, through the internet, through WhatsApp, whatever, telephone, if you see that they're not active in that way, to allow them, you know, using your own skills in order to do that. And also I encourage you, you know, building trust relationship with the family, with sons, daughters, grandchildren, whoever they are, and how much they are involved in this person's life, to encourage them. Maybe once a week, send a report saying we had a good week, we did this, that, and the other, or we had some difficulty with this issue or that issue, and it was resolved. I think it, you know, it would be very nice that the family also knows that they can trust you and that they have someone who's there watching and, you know, caring for their family in a real way. Okay, step number 4, creating a caregiving alliance. The caregiving alliance consists of 3 essential components: agreeing on the caregiving tasks, agreeing on the goals of the care, and developing the personal relationship consisting of mutual positive feelings, trust, and good communications, as I've said before. The caregiving alliance is usually determined at the beginning of a relationship between the caregiver and the patient, and constitutes a primary infrastructure for the relationship between them. Such a contract gives stability to the caregiver relationship and a sense of mutual responsibility and partnership. And I want to emphasize the word partnership, because this is a partnership, okay? You need the family and your clients' cooperation in order to do your job well. And so this is very important, right? To have a good interaction, good understanding, and of course, trust. Okay, and step number 5 is taking into account social and cultural components, okay? Part of the Caregiving Alliance is to take into consideration social and cultural components. What does that mean? You know, Israel is a country of immigrants, as I've said before. And so most people have come from somewhere at some point in their life, okay? Perhaps they've already have been born in Israel, you know, if they're elderly or young, but different cultures, different languages from South America, Asia, Europe, Africa, all those different countries have Jewish people that have immigrated to Israel. And this experience of, you know, of trying to be in a different country, perhaps they speak a different language, different spices, different cultural aspects of their behavior. All of those things make up who they are. And also the way that they respond perhaps to women, perhaps to men. You and your patient come from different cultures and you have different language styles, custom preferences, and beliefs. It's okay to express your preference and to keep your customs, but it's better to talk about it even with your patient and to talk about it with your patient and reach agreement or not to reach agreement. Try to take into account the culture, value, customs, traditions of your patient. This includes food preferences, daily routine, and habits. And I will also add pace, okay? You have to pace of your client, okay? You're being young and active and vibrant and healthy. Your pace in doing things efficiently and quickly is very good, but you must be sensitive that perhaps this is not the pace that is appropriate for your client. And so you must be very minded to do things at the pace that is comfortable for him or her, okay? In terms of bathing, eating, dressing, and, you know, daily routine and so on, whatever it is, very important. Food preferences, always ask what they want to eat, when they want to eat, how to prepare things for them, very important. Routine and habits, you want to encourage them, routine and habit. Yes, someone has, Joanne, you have your microphone on. Okay, thank you. Routine and habit is very calming and soothing. People like to have a routine. And if it's a good routine that, you know, that to be as stimulated as is necessary for them, okay? To try to help them build a routine that, you know, involves perhaps assembly besides the regular things of eating. Again, I invite you to comment on the things that and what is involved. If there's, you know, some other, and share with us and how to build trust and what.
Sorry, I think Sarah got disconnected, so we'll wait for just one.
Okay, my connection kind of petered
Okay,
out for a minute.
Yeah, we got it. I just said that you will be back in a minute. You were less than a minute.
Okay, I'm back. So would anyone like to comment about building relationships and trust?
Just to draw your attention that your presentation is closed right now.
What is closed?
Your presentation, PowerPoint presentation that you shared before.
Okay, that's okay.
closed.
That's okay.
Just for you to know, it's okay.
Okay, hi Anat. I'm glad you're joining us. Okay.
Sorry, I just joined now. Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Good to see you.
Hi, Anna.
Hi. Would anyone like to comment about, you know, building trust, the most important part in any relationship?
Maricel, who is in your group, are going to talk right now. We see you having an internal discussion.
Hello, ma'am. Good evening.
Hi, good evening, Claire.
Regarding in our discussion, I think as a caregiver here in Israel, the most complex or difficult part for us barrier. That's why effort to know the language in order we can help us to build trust to our patient.
Thank you.
And I
Thank
think the easiest your call here is very good. They can relate us know their preferences because they're also willing to share with us their preference.
Okay, if I understood you correctly, yes, in order to infer what they like, what they need, it's good to know the language. So are you making an effort? Are you beginning to learn Hebrew? And I think that if you engage your client or your patient, then you already have, a common bond and a common goal. Besides, I think that that might be a nice idea, helping them and them helping you learn the language. Anyone else like to comment or voice question or concern?
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Hi, Caroline, is that you or Marianne?
Journaling, ma'am.
Okay.
For me, by showing respect and love with my job and
Do your job properly.
I will do my job properly. And of course, for example, if my employer say, bring their instructions, do not
Love your job.
tell a lie, be
Follow instructions, absolutely.
Yes.
Okay.
because I know that I believe that what I get, I
What
will
you give.
receive.
But you
What? Yes, yes.
What you give,
What you give, you will receive. Yes, I agree completely. If you right, if you give your honest and best self, then that will be perceived in a true way, and that you'll be respected in return. I agree. I agree.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
Hello, ma'am.
Hi. Hi.
Hello, ma'am. Hello,
Hi,
ma'am. This is Winnie again. For my additional, as a caregiver, sometimes patients are not completely forthcoming with their physical, their pain when speaking with doctors. So caregiver plays an important role in honest communications between doctors and patients by upholding patients' preferences also. For treatments options when the patients cannot or will not speak for him or herself. So caregiver just know it about more things important. So we should show there a lot of informations from the patients as well. So caregiver is being caregiver is a listener. Caregiver is it's always to help and to explain it about the feelings, about the about the what do you call this?
Thank you.
About the feelings of their patients or the condition as well. So caregiver, you should know, take for time to check it, like especially the oxygens, of course. So very particular about the conditions of the patients. Thank you.
Thank you, Winnie.
And then we're gonna start it for the trust to each other between caregiver and the patients as well.
Okay. So
Thank you.
if I understand experience is that it's very important to get information from other medical sources,
Yes.
best care. Sometimes your client themselves needs, and you may consult caregiving facilities that may be involved in his care. And you think about the care situation, then they, of course, that encourages trust. And yeah, and knowing what they need, even if they're not able to tell you, is a very important part of building trust. You're very right. Thank you, Winnie, for sharing that. Anyone else would like? Hi.
Anna-Marie, ma'am. Addition, must keep the confidentiality of the patient. Then if you first, if it's okay for them to take pictures with them, then number one thing you must thank you.
Very good. You're very right. Confidentiality, very important. You know, I will say, you know, to steal is obviously, we don't want to do something like that, but even to move things, because sometimes, you know, when you move something, not even thinking it's important that you place something in one place instead of another, it may cause distress. So, you know, for the person, oh, where did it go? Where did it go? Yes, very important to be minded about, you know, that's part of building a trust relationship. Yes. Respecting the place. It needs to be there necessarily, but if you're, this is their home, this is their space, you know, if they decide that this is, you know, the place for the pot or the pan, then that's the place for the pot or doing that. Anyone else?
Hello, ma'am.
Hi.
So for me as a caregiver, so we should have to know the ability to treat and care for respect, of course. So ability to adapt to various living environments and locations, ability to communicate with clients in a friendly and congenial manner. So that's also very important.
Very important.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay. And confidentiality, like you said, not posting pictures without anyone's right. And guarding their property, just as you're guarding them, that's also very important. Yes, to be mindful, because you are guarding them and their property. Absolutely right. Okay. Anything else that someone would like to add?
Hello, ma'am.
Hi.
Hi. How to build the trust? You have to be honest to the family and to your employer. That's very important. Honesty.
Honesty.
Yes, ma'am.
Honesty is the best policy. Thank you.
Yes, that's true.
All of those wives' tales that they, you know, that they used to say, it comes from a basis of truth, obviously. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. If you make a mistake, you know, say I made a mistake. It's easier to deal with someone that tells the truth. Make a mistake, if they do something wrong, if something breaks, then, you know, that's the hard part of being honest, right? Coming forward with things that don't go well. When things go well, it's easy to be honest, but it's very important in order to build trust that if something doesn't go right, then you come and, you know, and you tell about it and you ask how to make it better. And then the situation provokes trust. Absolutely right.
Just admit your mistake.
Yes. And we make mistakes, we're all not to make them again. That's true. Very true. Anyone else would like? Hi.
Yes, ma'am. Hello. There are also instances, ma'am, that the employer test you like respective places to like that is also workers or their house workers if they are trustworthy or not because every employer just put a cash in the drawer. I was just waiting maybe for I know already that is just some kind of a test to test your trust with them and your loyalty with your employers. So that's thank you.
Okay. Thank you for telling your friends about, you know, situations like that. Yes, could be that, you know, in the beginning, if your employer wants to test if you're trustworthy, they may put you to the test. That could be a possible test. Thank you for telling your friends about that. I'm sure there will be other tests as well. I don't know which ones, but yes, whenever you're building a relationship, people put each other to the test. That's very true. Anyone else have a story they'd like to share or a question?
For my additional again, ma'am, this is Winnie.
Hi, Winnie.
So caregivers, so every caregiver should have patience, compassion when someone has understanding of what the person is going through. So attentiveness, dependability, trustworthiness. So that's the you know it's just the matter that the employers we trusting you 100%. If you had that, then we don't have problem. We don't everyone around you didn't think about the bad from you.
Okay.
Because you are because you are honest, and of course, your trustworthiness, of course. So trust is so important for individuals. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Winnie. Yes, you told us of many, many important things. Okay. Someone else like to mention something or ask a question? We still have a few minutes. Okay. So it's always important to remember that you can improve no matter what happens. Is there someone else that wants to say something? I'm sorry, did I cut you off? Jesse or someone else? Okay.
I'm sorry. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Please do. If you
Peda,
have
ma'am.
something to say, you're invited to say it.
Yes, ma'am. I just remember some up in my mind when you started the orientation. Before we started, I remember all of the key points that you said in building our.
Do you want to turn your mic on? Because we can't hear you.
Ayun pala.
Okay,
Hi,
now we hear
ma'am.
you.
Yes.
Hi.
Sorry.
Okay. Okay.
Yes,
Repeat
I
what you
remember.
said.
Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry. I remember all of the key points that you said before we started the topic. It's all about integrity, competent, and confidence before you build your trust, the patient's trust with you, because integrity, it it tells about, yes, honesty. You should build integrity. It's all about honesty, your character, because before they trust you, of course, you need to be honest. And second, competent. Competent is that comes from your knowledge, your skills, all of what you have learned from your experiences and from school. That builds up your competence. And yes, they could trust you eventually, little by little, because for example, before they could accept all those medicines that you're giving them, of course, they need to feel that you are trustworthy. You know what you are doing by being professional caregiver. And the third one is confidence. If they feel that you are confident with all of your instructions for them, and then I remember the word that you said, ma'am, that you can manipulate them eventually for them to follow you. That's all. That's all, ma'am. That I remember all those words from you
Thank
from the
you.
start.
Thank you. Thank you, Jesse.
Thank
I
you,
see
ma'am.
that
All the time.
you've accepted all of those important things. They're part of you. So yes, so you can remember them easily. Yeah, they're all difficult things, but they're part of our personality. And okay, so guys, if we have all of that in mind, I think we might be ready to go and make a trustworthy relationship. Anat, do you have anything that you'd like to add before we finish our presentation today? We had really a lot of participation, and I thank everyone for taking part and sharing with your friends your experiences. Yeah, we shall meet again tomorrow, and we have another presentation. Okay, everyone. I think Margareta and Anat, if you're here, we'll just say good evening to everyone and continue tomorrow. Yes, are you with us, Anat? Margareta?
Yes, we're here.
Okay.
Thank you,
I'm here. I was
everybody.
just on mute. Yeah, right after the meeting, I will send you some links and of course the recording for this meeting. And like Sarah said, we will see you tomorrow.
Okay, and we'll continue our discussions.
Yeah, I will also would like to mention that tomorrow, in addition to recording that Sanat will share with you of a new session that we'd like to watch and a meeting online with Sarah, we'll have also an opportunity together with you to hear and experience personal experience of a fellow caregiver from Philippines who arrived a couple years ago. So she spent more time than you at this point, and she experienced some things that she would like to share with you. So we strongly recommend for you to think about the question and things that you would like to ask her to share with you. So when she will come tomorrow, you won't miss the chance and you'll ask her. We'll of course prepare some questions from ourselves, but we would like you also to not be shy to participate as today in the last sessions as well. So we wanted to know, we want you to know already that this meeting will take a place, and please think what would you like to ask her. So yeah, that would be it on my side. And thank you very much for you for active participation and to Sarah for her very nice and gentle guiding through this process.
Thank you. I'd like to add to what Margarita just shared. Like Margarita said, please, if you have any questions or concerns, something that you like to ask, but prepare those questions. But if you're not feeling comfortable to ask while in the meeting, please text us, send us your questions in advance, so we'll be able to bring that up in the session.
Have a nice evening, everyone. I enjoyed
Thank
talking to you and hearing all your stories.
Thank you, Ma'am Sarah.
Shalom, shalom.
Hello, Ma'am.
Erev Tov. We say Erev Tov.
Hello, Ma'am Sarah.
Erev Tov.
Erev Tov. Good
Hello, Ma'am
night.
Sarah. I have an additional. Ma'am Sarah, hello.
Hi, yes.
I have some additional about, speaking of emotional support to the patients. So when faced with a serious diagnosis, patients are often overwhelmed by the emotional and physical turmoil. So caregivers are tasked with the important duty of providing support and encouragement for the patients as well as themselves. Communication is the key in the relationship between a caregiver and a patient. So that's a very important because emotional support, then you can show it your support to the
Winnie, you're
to their
one
patients.
step ahead of me. Tomorrow's presentation is going to be about emotions in caregiving. So you've given us the
Okay, Ma'am,
precise
sorry.
title of what we're going to talk about tomorrow. That is exactly
Okay,
right.
ma'am.
Tomorrow, that is the
Thank you.
subject. Emotions in caregiving work. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Thank
Tomorrow
you
we're
very
going to
much.
talk about that more intensely.
Okay. Because I can still remember about the emotional support to their patients. Of course, that was very important for us
Very
to know
important.
about. Yes.
Tomorrow,
so thank you
that's
very
our
much, Ma'am
subject.
Sarah.
Thank you for presenting that.
Thank you also. You're welcome.
Okay. Good evening.
And thank you for your time with us.
Absolutely. Erev Tov lekulam. Erev Tov.
Erev Tov
Erev
לכולם.
Tov.
תודה רבה.
Wow, ngayon lang naglabas ang